the piano fast is not about forcing anything. It's about efficiency. The key is eliminating unnecessary movement, reducing tension, and making sure that each note sets up the next one. Let's break it down into 4 essential categories. The first one is to minimize unnecessary movement. Any extra movement that you make slows you down. So if your elbow is in the wrong place, your arm has to move more than necessary, which adds drag and inefficiency. And the bigger the body part, the slower it moves. So if you're moving the torso, that's even slower. So a key concept that I call metronome elbow is that when you're leaping back and forth, like in ragtime or a waltz pattern, you want to keep your elbow in the middle of the leap. So not something like this, but instead keep your elbow in the middle and be going back and forth. This will keep your movement small, and it also allows you to measure the leap. You can kind of sense into how much is this upper arm bone, how much is it turning in the shoulder socket, and that can help you find where it is you're trying to leap to. Tension is the enemy of speed as well. That's because when your fingers are tight, you can't move them quickly. One major cause of tension is excessively curling your fingers. By that I mean kind of pulling in this first joint like this. Try doing that. Try curling your fingers and moving them as fast as you can. And now let your fingers be more how they would be if your arm was just resting at its side, and try moving your fingers as fast as you can. Which one is easier? I usually find this one. Often people are curling their fingers to avoid touching the black keys. So that happens when they're playing all white keys like this. They'll be very curled up, trying to show from the side here. And it also happens when you have to play a short finger in the black keys, like the 2 on the black keys. Often it looks like this. The 2 is kind of extending and the 3 is pulling back. So if you're playing the second finger in the black keys, you want to let the third finger be inside the black key area. Chopin knew this. He always taught everybody to start their scales with B major for that reason. Another cause of tension is stretching. So again, open your hand out really far and try to move your fingers as fast as you can. And now just open them to the point where it feels comfortable and see how fast you can move. So it's definitely easier if you don't open as far as possible. So in terms of fingering, you want to choose fingerings where you don't have to open your hand all the way. Sometimes that might mean letting go of a note that the score says to hold down. So usually you can solve sustaining that note with the pedal, and that way you will be able to play fast, you'll get a better sound, and you won't have that tension. A third important idea is that every note that you play should set you up for the next note that you need to play. A student of mine says that's like playing pool, apparently. So here are 3 specific techniques that will make a huge difference. Whenever you play your thumb, when you're going to cross over your thumb, whenever you play the thumb, you want to let the other fingers sort of flop over it. And that would be partly a forearm rotation and partly it's a kind of a folding, folding the palm over the thumb. That way when you play the thumb, if you turn to play the thumb with that slight rotation, then it can just throw your fingers to the next note. This is Stephen Heller Etude. So when I play the C here, it just throws me right to the B flat. A final important factor in being able to play fast is to choose good fingerings. Poor fingerings can really sabotage your speed. Things that will slow you down is to really have to squish your fingers together. I sometimes see fingerings that say like 5, 2, and that's very crowded. You also don't want to select fingerings that force you to suddenly open your hand, at least in speed. If it's slow, it's fine. But these movements, the opening and closing movements, are not fast. Those are not fast muscles that open this way and that way. So you want to avoid trying to use those in speed. No matter how much you practice, it will not get fast. The other thing is you don't want to, you want to minimize having to move your hand out of a position as much as you possibly can. That is a little bit in conflict with what I said about stretching. So you have to experiment and kind of find a happy medium between what feels like a reasonable amount of opening your hand that minimizes the amount of jumping that you have to do.